Yeah. Oh, you've got one of the tippy ones. Oh, yeah. There should be.
Okay, so we'll get started with the February 20th, 2005 session of the Oregon City Arts Commission. And I'll have you start off with doing roll call.
Terrific. Good evening, everybody. Amanda Dexter. Present. Joyce Lemaster.
Here.
Daria Loy.
Here.
Emma Lugo.
Here.
Choir.
Here.
Josh Planton.
Here.
Rebecca Sierra. Here. Amy Wilson. Here. Terrific. And Miriam Ravenwise has excused absence this evening.
Thank you. Next up is adoption of the agenda. I'll give everyone some minute to review it. One thing I wanted to note was that Rebecca, Ann, and myself met with the city recorder to just kind of get a rundown on our roles as chair and vice chair and administrator. One thing that he suggested was adding times to the agenda to help kind of just keep the conversation in a more structured format. So we did that. I don't want anyone to think that we are sticking to this as concrete. It's supposed to meant to just give us a guide. If discussion is ongoing on a certain topic, more than willing to be flexible with all of this. So just know that those times are just guidelines, not strict timing.
Yeah, we're not going to cut you off.
Yeah. Any other additions to the agenda? Motion to approve the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Okay, agenda's approved. And then minutes from the January 16th meeting. I'll give everyone a few minutes just to look through those, see if there's any comments. And I did have one item. I think the adjourning time was 7:52. It should be 8:52 p.m. We didn't get through it that fast, so.
Thank you. So noted.
Any other changes? If not, anyone want to make a motion to approve?
I will make that motion to approve the minutes.
Great, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, minutes from January 16th are approved. Public comment.
Did not receive any specific public comment.
Okay. Perfect. Next up then is the presentation, the budget presentation. We'll invite up Matt and James to give that.
Thank you both for being here. As you guys know, Matt Zook is our finance director for the city of Oregon City, and James Graham, community economic development manager.
Welcome.
Welcome. I don't think this one is working.
Now it is.
Yeah? No?
Testing. No.
Nope.
Sorry, I should have warned you. Bring the screen down. I should have warned you, sorry.
Okay, we all have really good reflexes.
Is it on? Testing. 1, 2, 3. Testing. Well, it's good to be here with you all. As you know, I love the arts. And whenever I get an opportunity to steal just a little bit of the spotlight from Ann Griffin, I will take, because I know it's fleeting. So it is good to see all of you, and this is going to be an evening of good news. So get ready.
That's the way to open a presentation.
Yeah, I know, right?
I will start with discussing the process that we use for the budget. and how the budget process works. Because now we're going to, in a few months, we'll be going into the new biennium. And it is my great pleasure to have with me a very old friend.
I just met him last night.
The finance director of Oregon City, and it's good to have Matt by my side because we have lots to talk about and a lot to sort of share with you in terms of how all of this works. As you know, our finance, Oregon City has won several prizes and recognition, by no short measure, as a consequence of Matt's work, for our budget and auditing prowess. We've gotten awards, clean audits, and so we try to keep it that way. The budget process. So we are about to enter the new biennium, and it's a 2-year budget. So it's a 25-27 budget period. The way it works is that when you're allocated a budget, you spend accordingly per year over that 2-year period. When you allocate a grant to someone, not only is it important that you provide that grant within that fiscal year, but it's also important that they spend that money within that fiscal year because the money it has to be recorded based on when it was expended. You cannot take money from one biennium, which is the 2025 and 2027 biennium, and let it bleed over into the next biennium. You just can't do that. It's illegal. And so what you don't spend, what you don't use, you lose. And that's how it works. But I can't stress enough how important it is that the applicant spend the money. So when they spend it and they've completed their work, then they're given the final payment. But we can't pay individuals for work that's not completed. And those are just general rules to go by. I'm going to turn this over to Matt because he's going to go through the cash flow with you with those ground rules in mind. And so, Matt, I'll turn that over to you.
Thanks, James. James is the face of the finance department. He keeps me in line. That's a joke, but
Of course, we both know that's a joke.
it is good to be with you. I recognize some faces. It's good to see you again, Emma. And Josh, your name sounds familiar. I don't know if it was the post office wall or if you were on a different committee prior.
I've been on the budget committee before.
That's what I thought. I didn't want to presume, but I thought your name was familiar. So good to see you all. I presume that this is in their packet, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's also up there.
Okay, so I'll just walk through, and I've been here 4 years, started at the end of 2020 when we all had COVID, so I can remember having many virtual meetings. I think the Metro Enhancement Grant was a virtual meeting, and so it's actually good to have a personal meeting, and it's nice to see this room being used by other committees on the commission, so. I will walk you through the Oregon City Arts Commission Statement of Financial Resources and Expenditures as of last Friday, Valentine's Day. I think we presented, I think Ann and the committee received a report 2 months ago that indicated a lower ending balance. We're at the bottom of the sheet, you're going to see a projected net of $36,000. I think the last number you saw was like $1,200. I will go back up to the top of that report now, and you'll see that there is a line that is on this financial statement that wasn't there last meeting, and that's the 2021-23 Arts Commission unspent funds. And as James indicated, there was money allocated to the Arts Commission in the very first 2-year cycle that you guys were formed. and it was $40,000. And some awards were given, and just a very small amount. I think it was actually $35,000 that you got, and I think $2,400 was spent. There was an award for $2,400, and then there was a bunch of other grants that were issued and executed in the July-August timeframe after the close of the budget cycle. So, as James indicated, those funds aren't automatically rolled over. There's a budget process that has to be reapproved. And you all had a budget that was reapproved for this current biennium of $40,000, but that $32,600 did not automatically get rolled over. We had an internal discussion since your last meeting, and agreed we should reinstate that $32,600. What that does, in essence, is if you look down at the expenditures / financial commitments, where it says actual, and in the very top line, you did have this number on your last report, and it was $32,600 of grants awarded from that initial budget period, the 21-23 Arts Commission grants. So the money that we brought forward that wasn't on that report last time is now at the top, essentially wiping out that deficit that you had, and making $32,600 offset by the expenses that were there. So that's the gain that you see on this report, and why your projected net goes from like $1,200 back up to now it's $36,206. So
36,000.
36,206. You're always trying to take money from me, James. So that's in essence the good news that James was alluding to, and the rest of the detail on this financial statement is basically the same as the last report. Talked with Ann and looked at the transactions that had occurred since your last meeting, and there wasn't much. So if you'd like, most of these will look familiar to you. You have an economic development budget, and FY means fiscal year. That's 2023-24, and $20,000 from essentially last fiscal year, and $20,000 for this fiscal year. That's the budget period, so it's $40,000. We just broke it out into the two years. And that's essentially what you have left, minus a little bit of expenses that you've spent already. The rest of the lines in the resources, this public arts restoration, $20,000, is you have that to spend still. You've been working on, I think, an RFP related to public art restoration. And so that $20,000 public art restoration is projected to be spent down further on the bottom of the report. Hasn't been spent yet, but it's projected to be spent. So you have that money, but it's kind of restricted towards the purpose of that, what the commission gave to the Arts Commission at that time. The 23-24 enhancement grant and the 24-25 enhancement grant, those were applied for by the Arts Commission, specific purposes. Those funds, the $15,900 in combination with the insurance settlement, Ancient Voices, those two went in large part to the Jenny Ellsworth Ferry Forge 7th Street sculpture and the Kathy Rowe contract for the public arts assessment. The 24-25 enhancement grant of $8,000 has yet to be spent as well, and so that's why it's down into the projected section. So in essence, you have spent $56,000 out of a combined $121,000. The projected amount to be spent by the end of the year, we've already tagged $29,200 towards known projects, and the projected net of $36,000 is what you have left to decide on how you're going to spend. My understanding is that you had a program in place, you were working towards that, and then had to put the brakes on the last 2 months, and now you got the green light, and you're allowed to speed. In fact, to James's point, that money needs to be spent by the end of June. So it's good news that you have the money, but go execute your plan.
Yeah.
And do so diligently. you will not get a ticket. But,
Yeah.
so I guess I'd stop there and answer any questions about any of this. There's a lot of strings attached to to these different sources of revenue.
Yeah.
So you have some grants from the enhancement grant. You had some insurance settlement. It's going to get much more simple in the new fiscal year. James has already requested he's requested that into the proposed budget that we're designing right now to go before the Arts Commission in April. He's asked for another round of Arts Commission, money so that you can continue to do the good work that you're doing.
So I've asked for $50,000 for the upcoming biennium instead of 40.
Okay.
And I think, Emma has a question.
So James, I just want to make sure I understand what you were saying. So are you saying that the commission needs to both contract and execute and pay whatever artist or project we do by the end of June? Is that what you're saying?
Exactly right.
Okay, so, and they need to be paid by the end of June?
They need, not only, they have to be paid, but whatever they're doing has to be done.
Okay, got it.
So that's the key difference. And this is the accounting rules that we have to follow. There's accounting rules and there's Oregon budget law. There's multiple layers in here. But to keep it simple, the money will be charged to your budget when the goods are received or the service is performed. So if you're doing a consultant or an artist that's designing, a service for you, maybe they're doing something like Kathy Rowe did, a public art assessment that's not necessarily tangible, but that's still a service that she earned, and when she earns it, we pay her. If in the case of your upcoming maybe a grant process, and you're going to do what is the program you've been thinking about, like another round of grants for artists, right? Mm-hmm. The artists have to perform the work, whatever the work they perform, they will get paid for by June 30th. And this is an exercise, unfortunately, we have to do with all $240 million of the budget that the city has across all the different sources of money.
Yeah. So when we're discussing artwork, sometimes artwork itself takes a while to make.
Right.
So you're saying, like, say if we commissioned a painting, the painting would have to be completed by the end of June, or we would just have to have paid for the goods of service of the painting and it started? You know what I'm saying? Like, because with art, it could be like, well, we had we want to change the style, or there's a lot like that goes into it. And we were hoping to actually already have this grant out and within this meeting or the next be choosing who would receive it so that the artist would have time to complete the work.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, it does. We have to pay. We actually contact our vendors and any of our consultants and say, please send us an invoice for the work you performed by June 30.
Yeah.
So we don't, it's not a matter of us paying them in advance. It's a matter of paying them for what the work they've done, which is a little bit different than what happened in 21-23. I mean, you all had like contracts, awards that you actually had signatures on, but it was like in June, nobody had done any work. So that moved all that commitment beyond the legal authority for us to spend that money. Mm-hmm. And we hadn't done anything legal to reallocate it until now. And so that's an illustration of what I'm saying. The point of, I think there was one artist that's like got his work done for $2,400 by the end of June. And so we paid him and we had to match that payment up to the work that he had done. And then the rest hadn't been performed and we didn't pay them because we don't prepay people. Generally, I mean, there are some grant stipulations that the city might build that says, we'll front you 70% or 60% and then go do that. If that's a legal contract, I mean, I don't want to get too far into the weeds on that, but I think what James is saying is, you just got to work within the time frame you got.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, this is a one-time situation. This is a very special situation. This will not happen again. What you do not use, you will lose. And so when we go into the next biennium, and you hopefully will get $50,000, hopefully, you have until the end of that biennium to spend that money.
I would like to state that when we were writing, we knew that we had a limit to use the money, and we knew that that there was timelines on the artists actually doing things. And we did every meeting while we were writing the structure of the grant, because if we know that all the deadlines, we could put that in the structure of the grant. We could tell the artist, like, this work needs to be completed by such and such a date. And we asked those questions. We clarified with Anne. So we knew there was a timeline. We weren't oblivious to that, and we thought we were working with a proper timeline. And I just want to put that out, like, we weren't being unprofessional, but we were checking with that. We understand how this works, that there's a certain timeline. So I just wanted to let you guys know.
Yeah. No, I understand that. From our perspective as staff, I mean, I was telling James, essentially, what the reality of it is you lost 2 months at this point. I mean, meaning like you were all full steam ahead up until you learned that the brakes had to be stopped. And so you lost a couple months, unfortunately. Maybe, I mean, hopefully this team can be, re-engaged, and you can, I totally get the art thing. I mean, my daughter's an artist, and she won't work for money because she wants the time to produce at her own pace and et cetera, so.
Okay, so I have a quick question about the next grant round cycle. So that gets awarded in June, correct?
That's July 1.
July 1, yeah, end of June. And so I wanted to be sure, so it gets, thank you for the 50,000.
You haven't gotten it yet.
Well, for the proposal, that is better than 40. But what I want to be sure is, like, so let's assume it goes well, fantastic, it gets awarded. And then so on July 1st, the clock starts, right? And that is for a biennium, but do we need to spend 50% of that 50,000, let's assume, by the end of the first year? Or can we split it over, like, the way we want over those 2 years period? I want to be sure.
You've already done that, clearly, by the 40,000 that you had for this biennium. Nothing was really spent out of that 40,000. You've spent, like, $3,800 out of that. So that illustrates your point. So within the 2 years, you can spend it
the way we want throughout that. So we are not bound to spend 50% the first year, 50%.
Right.
Just because I got the impression that we had to do that. So I wanted to be sure that we don't have to do that.
No, you're correct, but, it's a caveat here. In terms of good financial management and good project management, that would be an ideal situation if you could spend the money within the fiscal year that you were given. So in other words, if it's 50,000, ideally it'd be nice to spend 25 of it in the first year so that you can keep track of things. Because if you let things leak and slip, and you're in a situation that you don't want to be in.
It's
so
very
basically,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
what I'm hearing is, while it's not you must do that, it's highly recommended that we do that.
Just to keep track of just so that you can keep track of your own activity and make sure that you don't, cost and projects don't get away from you. That's the key.
It's very much like what Josh said at the beginning of the meeting, which was we've got some new additions to your agenda, which are time markers, right? And you're not gonna stop and cut the conversation off at that minute. But you at least have a pace to know you're, maybe reach the end by midnight or whatever time you guys end here.
So that's the good news and the bad news. But because in essence, you have lots of money now. And so that's important now that, and I'm hoping the arts community hear about this and will respond positively, because we're going into a period where we don't know where the economy is going to go. And we're going into a period where the arts sometimes is the first thing that's cut. As a matter of fact, the arts has always been the first thing cut in a lot of situations. So this is one of those points in history for the Arts Commission of Oregon City to really make an impact on the community overall.
I have one more clarification question.
Before you ask your question, Choir, I'd like to just make a statement, which is to thank not only James and Matt for their assistance to me as the staff liaison to the Arts Commission, but also to thank Mayor McGriff, who is a liaison to the city commission from our arts commission. I believe our city manager was also engaged. There's been a number of conversations to understand what happened. Why was there a disconnect in the communication, and what can we do as staff to make it right? So I want to say that I appreciate those efforts, and I think I think we've got a lot to do in terms of being able to creatively identify applicants and market the program. But I think we can. I think we can do it. But I did want to thank folks for their efforts. There's been a lot of conversation about what to do in terms of these grants. So I'm glad we've come to the conclusion we have.
Question of clarification. So a lot, when I'm a working artist and I take commissions. When I do a commission, I do half upfront. And that's pretty standard. So theoretically, if we were, say, we decided to commission artwork, and we said, we will give you out of this budget, the 36,000, you can have half up front. And then we would take it, and then when you're completed the work, that would come out of the next budget. Would that be cool? Like, would that be?
Let me answer that, because it all depends on what your contract says, because you will have a contract.
Of course, yeah.
So therefore, if the contract says, we'll pay you up front a certain percentage, say 50%, and then the other 50% when it's finished, hopefully you'll be able to finish it within the fiscal year that you were given it. If not, if it bleeds over into the next fiscal year, that's fine. But you have to be done before the end of the biennium.
Well, I think what you're saying is you're asking the reality of this remaining 36,000.
Oh, you don't.
You're essentially asking whether or not you engage in the artist contracts coming up in your work, and then and those contracts would say a percentage is given up front.
Yes.
That's really there's an element there. There's a contract that you essentially have, and a grant agreement, and I think that would suffice. What we have to look at then is, one, the spirit of the contract. Is it being done in such a way that we're trying to get money out the door at the 11th hour when there really hasn't been any material or substantial time for them to do anything?
Yeah.
So I think there's some intent behind it and some good faith effort on that. Industry-wide, if you're saying that the artists, if that's common with artists, you want to be appropriate. And the other aspect, I forgot I lost the second thought. So.
Well, and there could be a thing too, like when you do a commission, sometimes like when we did work with Jenny, like we had maquettes brought in by a certain date, so we could look at all the options that she was thinking about. Like, could we be like, you get 50% down and you have to give us 3 mock-ups by this date, by the end of this biennium, and then, you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like there could be a solid exchanges, because again, like art is a little different, right? Where there can be concrete in a contract, certain landmarks of like, by this date, we need 5 sketches. By this date, we need a finalized sketch. By this date, we need the end product, right?
Yeah.
So it seems to me that like, if we're looking for a concrete good, that concrete good could be, we need 3 examples of how to choose from of how the end product will look by this date, including the 50% upfront. Would that be acceptable, or in a legal contract?
And maybe building on that, I'm just thinking about contract that I wrote in a completely different scenario, but I think is completely applicable here. You can have a contract that says we approve this project, however, we want phase 1. Phase 1 has to be completed by this date, and at the completion of this phase 1, we will pay you the amount that we allocate in the contract for this phase 1. So let's say that the project costs $30,000, for instance. You can say phase 1 must be completed within 6 months, and at the end of those 6 months, if you actually show us that you completed phase 1, we will give you the money that we attached to that phase 1. And then we move to phase 2. Phase 2 is worth this amount of money. money and that is got a due date. And you can have multiple phases. And so in this case, like now, we could have a situation where we could have a contract with an artist that has got 2 or 3 phases even, right? Because maybe it's a very complex public artwork. And we can have the phase 1 has to be completed by the end of June. And only by the end of June, we can pay you this amount of money because phase 1 is worth $10,000, for instance. And then we will start phase 2 July 1st, and you have to complete it within 6 months, and we'll give you another 20,000. And we could do a contract that really very specifically clarifies the deliverables in relation to the amount that deliverable is worth and the timeline that has to be delivered.
I understand exactly what you're saying, but this is a very unique situation.
Yes,
So you need to be done by June 30th.
so we can do that, okay.
What I thought.
Yeah.
In that regard, I understand the phasing, but
Yeah.
the legal Oregon budget law, essentially, I mean, the money can stay in the city's coffers, but
Yeah.
we have no authority to spend it
use
because
it.
it wasn't planned on being rolled over.
Understand.
And it ended on June, the authorization by the commission to spend the 23-25 budget and all that was in it expires on June
Okay.
30, 2025. That's unique. I mean, not every state has that, but that is in the Oregon revised statutes. So, I mean, it can be planned. There's decisions that can be made. We have this problem with capital projects all the time. I mean, imagine putting, Highway 213 in, it's a multi-year project. We never know how much is going to be done by the end of the June 30. Unfortunately, June 30 falls right in the smack of construction season, right? And maybe your artist season if people are doing outside art, murals. So it's difficult to estimate, but,
Yeah.
It's just like years back when the Obama administration was giving out money, and your project had to be shovel ready because they had to spend the money.
Yeah.
And so it's the same principle with this. So therefore, when you choose a project, an artist, they have to be shovel ready to go.
Yep.
And so you probably want that to be part of your criteria. Is what's the timeline?
Yep, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I would just like to encourage you to consider increasing the amount that you ask for the Arts Commission. A typical small city in America spends about 0.5% of its municipal budget on the arts. So a $250 million budget would come out to about $1.25 million for a typical small city in America. The percentage that we're getting is 0.02% of 1% is what we're getting. And I know that Oregon City spends money on the arts in other areas too, and I also understand that the Arts Commission needs more time to prove itself, but it would benefit, I think, the community to make a greater investment in the arts.
Well, it's interesting that there are a lot of demands on the city's general fund. And with that in mind, the arts is just simply one of them. And so therefore, with all the demands and with that, the city can only do what it can afford. And that's where we are. Now, what we are looking at is it's a gradual creep upward. You're not going to get $1 million all in one shot. But over time, as the general fund itself grows, then there's opportunity for contributions to the arts to grow. But as it stands now, the general fund is not growing. And it is what it is, and it is where it is. So that's just the way it's going to be.
Could I clarify something with responding to that? The $242 million, $250 million is a citywide budget, and just you might remember from, you were on the budget committee. This is an open invitation for you all to come on March 18th, Budgeting 101. You're welcome to come. It's for the budget committee, but it's going to be a public meeting. Come and learn that of that $242 million, there's a large amount that's already has very many restrictions. Like I can't spend your water bill on art. Just doesn't go well with most of the citizens. I can't spend gas tax on anything other than a road. So I again, just wanted to add a little bit of clarity that 242 million is not discretionary. It's not even the general fund. The general fund's much, much smaller than that. So, but your point's well taken. I think what you'll hear at the budget committee 101, when you come, because I know you'll be there, is you have a pie, and that pie is only so big. And right now, because the city's been, how many years have we been in existence? That pie, I mean, we allocate every single dollar we have. Some of it goes into reserves, some of it goes into discretionary money, and some of it is not. So we have the choice, the budget committee and the city commission has a choice as to, they can either grow the pie by taxing more or increasing their revenue more, or they can keep the pie the same, and then they just get to play with the size of the pieces in it. So anything that would go towards one program goes towards another. Obviously, there are services that everybody has their eye on: police, fire, water, etc. I mean, I was just telling two girls last year that, this is the water department, dad and two girls, excuse me, and they didn't know that water wasn't free. So, you have to pay for water in America. Anyways, my point is that the percentage, just keep that in mind, but I do think that, $40,000, $50,000 could definitely stretch. I'm not advocating either way, but that's the reality, is that we have a pie with different slices, and the person that gets a bigger slice, there's another person that gets a smaller slice.
So I have to take him out to lunch and make sure he looks favorably on our pie. But as you said, the general fund is that pie. And so everybody's going after that pie, including the police and everybody else. So it's one of those things.
I just wanted to make just a comment. While I actually do like what Emma had to say, and I would love $1.5 million, whatever it was, $1 million, give them to me anytime for art. I'll take it. At the same time, I just wanted to say that, I am grateful that, from 40,000, now we're 50,000. I mean, I do believe that, is a very encouraging kind of move that I think is, I just want to express gratitude for that. And I do understand also there are hard times ahead. And so, we really don't know what we don't know. And therefore, given all that, I'm grateful that we can have maybe a little bit more. And then, as we prove ourselves that we make good usage of those funds, and then we can hopefully slowly but surely increase and keep bringing more and more positive impact through the arts in the city. So I just wanted to say thank you for that.
And it's also important to remember that you can also engage in public-private partnerships with other entities. It doesn't always have to be money from the government. It can be money from the banks. It can be money but a public-private partnership where, for instance, you take the sculpture outside here. Say that was a sculpture that was developed not because there was an accident to the other one, but we wanted to put something there. And there are a number of banks that's required by law, called Community Reinvestment Act, CRA, that is required by law to make funding available to certain communities. And so you can, and especially those banks that you bank with, that should listen to you, because there are certain areas that they have to abide by within their CRA map. And when you usually ask a banker for the CRA map, the whole room gets quiet because they know something's up. And if they don't abide by the CRA, they can't expand. They can't open new branches. They're limited if they break CRA law. So, and then there are also other companies that are private companies that can do these kind of things. So I'm simply saying that there are other ways to raise awareness and to create that engagement with the community that is so important for something like this. And all things art, paintings, murals, song, dance, poetry, all things art, and not just one thing. And all people and genders are involved in the arts. And so, and I think that brings the entire community together, because nothing speaks more eloquently and louder than the arts.
Could not agree more. I wanted to ask about the CRA, kind of, I'm excited about that one.
Yeah.
So does it mean that we, as our commission, we could actually engage in these public-private partnerships? How does the financial aspects of that would work? Because I think we had this conversation in the past as a commission, and we were trying to understand what is within the bounds of what is acceptable for us to do.
Well, like for instance, I'll give you an example, and I think the chair is looking and saying, "Oh, time's running out."
Guidelines.
You okay? Like for instance, like the economic development department, we entered into a public-private partnership in providing loans to small businesses. We didn't take all of the money from the government. For instance, Embold Community Credit Union, we put in a certain amount of money. They put in a certain amount of money. I let them keep the interest because what they're going to be doing, that's a way of paying them so that I don't have to create a bank. Their whole systems are taking care of our money and their money. And so when we come together to make a deal with a small business concern who wants a loan, there's a loan review committee. I sit on the loan review committee, a representative from Embold, and also a community financial professional, like an accountant, sits on it. And so we make loans that way, and so that bank puts up 50%. We put up 50%. The interest rate is 2%, 0.5%. And it's called the Entrepreneurial Opportunity Loan Program. So it's 0.5% for the business. They only have to pay 0.5% for the first year, and then they would pay their principal and interest on the second year. It gives that bank time, that the recipient time to use the money, because a lot of times when you borrow money from a bank, they want the money back right away. So that's an example of a public-private partnership.
Okay, thank you. That's very exciting to think about.
Are there any other questions? Anyone?
All right?
I do have one. So just real quick, the budget plan for 2025 to 2027, meetings on March 18th. Is it, before I think it was like a number of weeks, there was a meeting every like Thursday or Monday or whatever. Is that going to be the same case, or are you trying to get it all done on the 18th?
No. The Budget 101 on the 18th is just an educational training, informational session. It's not even an official, we're going to publicly recognize it. It is the budget committee. It's not even required for them to be at. There's not going to be any deliberations on the budget. It's just training, which is legal. The actual, what you alluded to about the process beyond that is we'll begin, there's going to be 4 meetings. There are 4 meetings scheduled to begin, I think, in mid-April. I can get you the information if you're interested. It's also going to be on our website shortly.
Okay.
We have a budget calendar that, we basically started in January, and we got,
You started in July of really, you started thinking about it, so.
Yeah, it's my favorite time of the year. This is my Christmas time.
Yeah. In the middle of tax season.
Yeah, and I think Denise encouraged us when she was, I can't recall if it was the December meeting or the January meeting when she was here, and she said, make sure you come to the budget discussion in May. I think she specifically referenced one of the May meetings.
Yeah.
And then our, as a commission, the Arts Commission is also going to be making our annual, what we hope will be our annual presentation to the City Commission in May.
Yep.
Okay. Great. No other questions? Thank you both for the time and the good news.
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
I'm just going to make a noise again, so.
Okay, thank you, James, for advocating on behalf of, for us to get some more budget.
I love the arts.
Real quick, before we move on to the next topic, I just want to make sure we have kind of our actions identified from this conversation. So it sounds like we have now the grants back on the table for this year, but there are some new restrictions that we have to move within. So we would want to maybe highlight that in our retreat next week as something we want to get done and out.
Yes.
ASAP. I don't know, Choir, you had worked on it previously. I can't remember if someone else
Yeah,
was helping you.
Rebecca and I.
Rebecca and you.
Yep.
Do we want to have you both work on something before the retreat, or do we
Yeah.
want to just try and address it at the retreat?
No, I think we should work
We
on.
got to split it
yeah.
up and have the small grant application and the large. It's almost done. It'll
Yeah,
probably
it's very
take 20 minutes.
Yeah, okay.
Should you maybe, given the time that we're fighting against, I was thinking about when we went through the prior kind of, the Jenny, when we were going through all those artists, and there were artists that had art that was ready.
Right, yeah.
Already done. And so I was, maybe we might want to be, considering the timeline, think about having a slightly amended grants round where instead of saying, give us a proposal, we say, no, we're going to only accept proposals of things that are made, they're ready to install or to put, so that, we don't
Yeah.
have that issue with the timing.
I think also something to consider with how quickly we need to do this is, do we want to do a round of grants with this, or do we want to try and do some events? Or
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just going to put it out there. I think the biggest thing on our survey that we did was people want musical events. So I think something possibly to consider. I think we should still have the grant applications done by next meeting for the board, the commission's approval of like, this is what it'll be when we do grant rounds. But I think with this amount of money, we should consider and maybe decide at our next meeting if we're actually going to go forward with grants, or if we're going to do like a project that could be completed, or a few small projects instead. Now, we could still put a call out for, but it'll be like maybe a performance or something, and we can put a call out for musicians and performing artists, but we can have that deadline, and we can say, well, this is for something that's going to take place on this date, so we know it's going to be done in
maybe it
time.
could be a
And then we can pay them to do their, performance or something like that, like, no, it's okay.
I can also share with folks, so you're right, we have the applications for both the small grants and the large grants pretty much ready to go.
We do.
But what we could do, to your point, Choir, is we could take some of our time, we've committed to come together at the retreat next week for some of our strategic planning. And as I was thinking, because I've already published the agenda for our retreat next week, and there's some time we're going to be talking about the grants during the retreat.
Yeah.
So we can take, we can massage the application and the large and the small program that we already have to help get the money out.
I mean, we could just double all of the amounts we're offering, and we'll get higher quality art, we'll get more interest,
Yeah.
and we'll spend the money too.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So this money can only be used for a grant, like if we've had a piece of public art that we've had our eye on for a
No,
while?
we could use this money.
We can use it for whatever.
For whatever
Correct. We do not
determined.
necessarily have to have it.
Yeah, we don't have to do it with the
That's
grant.
okay.
Okay.
To my point of, do we want to, like, I just feel like with an open-ended grant, like being like, hey, tell us your project, pitch us your project, or pitch us the piece of art you want to make or whatever. There's so much time involved in deciding who gets it, and then the people getting the money, and then them making or doing the thing. This timeline just seems really hairy.
So there were a couple of artists in the Jenny cycle that people really liked. And I remember there were a few pieces where several commissioners were like, gosh, it'd be really great to have this. Maybe we could go back and look at some of those pieces and
That's what I was suggesting earlier.
and see.
I mean, I think that we should do something that will raise the profile of the arts in Oregon City.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that this sculpture has had a big impact because it's something people see every day driving
Right.
up and down the road.
And I mean, if we did go that direction, because also I was having the same exact thoughts about the grant process just takes such a long time. We could include, a celebration, sort of like how we did the ribbon cutting, and we could include some performing art in that. So, I think I agree that might be a smarter way to move forward.
Yeah.
grants do take a really long time.
Yeah.
And, you know, artists want to have their work considered and there to be, you know, time for that to go through that process. So,
Yeah.
I don't know,
I mean, when we went to the second, you know, alongside with, when we went to see Jenny and the other finalists, he had like an
had a
entire
lot of-
collection of ready-made,
Yeah.
huge sculptures in stone. They were ready to go.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
that could be one option to consider.
But also, I would like to point out too, like, a project grant is different from like a call for art.
Yeah.
Like, if we wanted to, we could be like, hey, it'd be cool to put some new art in, and we would need to have proposed sites, either indoors or outdoors.
Yeah.
And then doing a call for art, we could choose artists who have art that's already made.
yeah.
So if we wanted to do it that way. Also, if we wanted to host a music event to say, we have heard you, you want more performing arts, you want more music, and we could do a brought to you by, and we could spend funds on that. We can spend funds finding a venue, we can spend funds paying the musicians or performers, whoever, like whatever we do, like things like that. We don't have, it doesn't have to be visual art. We have focused really, our last couple years of effort have been heavily focused on visual art, and I would like to encourage us to consider performing arts for a bulk of this money.
Can we do that? I mean,
We can do both.
We just need to agree.
I like what Anna said.
Right.
So
Can we put it on a
the funds that were originally dedicated to the grants are in the unrestricted bucket. So you could, they don't have to all go to grants.
Yeah.
Are you saying that
can we
some
do
of it
what
would
Claire
need to
was
go to
saying then?
grants?
Well, we can decide, I would like to propose that when we meet next week at our retreat, that we take some of the time that we were going to use
Yeah.
for some of the strategic planning, our priorities for the year,
Yeah.
to specifically talk about how we want to spend that money.
Yeah.
How much of it do we want to have towards grants? What size grants? Do we want to make a purchase? Do we want to work with another artist? So let's take a good chunk of time when we meet at our retreat next week to figure out what our strategy is going to be.
Can you clarify though, what Claire said? Is that true? Is that something that we can do?
Yes, because the funds that were proposed for our grants came out of the unrestricted category.
Yes.
Cool.
Okay. So that's action one.
Okay.
The next one is, I think we should talk a little bit too, at some point, maybe next week, maybe at our March meeting, about how we want to maybe go and engage with the budget committee when that time comes. James has been very great in putting forward a 50,000. That doesn't mean we're necessarily going to get that. I feel like we should have a presence there to hopefully push for the 50,000 and encourage them if they're so feeling inclined to increase that as well. But I think we should have a plan around that, and I think we should just maybe even start talking a little bit about overall what are some other avenues for some additional funding that we could maybe get, and look at what options are out there. Because I think the comment was made earlier about just this economy, these days, what is going to be impactful for the arts, and it could get dire out there. So looking for other options would be, I think, a good option for us, or a good plan for us. So, anything else that I missed coming out of that conversation that we want to take action on, or people have thoughts on, follow up? Okay, great. Well, moving on then in the agenda, the next item was Arts Commission annual calendar. So this was something I had an idea on that I shared with Ann and Rebecca. I thought it would be helpful for us to start looking forward a little bit more, so we can kind of maybe plan out our agendas and our brainstorming sessions in light of things we want to participate in. So I put together just a simple template. We can modify the format or send it out some other way, so everyone can just have access to it. But the main request at this point is I'd like to get everyone to start sending in the events and related items that should go on here that we could need to be aware of. So this right now is basically showing us holidays and meetings, and Anne went in and put in the last Thursdays, which are sponsored by the Oregon City Downtown,
And I'm going to
Association.
turn on this screen so the audience can see what you're referencing, Josh. Go ahead and keep talking.
Okay, but basically, yeah, so I just started mapping those out. We also, I know there's a few art festivals and events that we have wanted to participate in or have participated in the past. Not everyone has 2025 dates out, so I threw in tentative dates in here based on last year. But it's just something I feel like would give us a little bit more perspective as we start having these conversations and start looking at, what do we want to do, and helps us, lay out our timeline a little bit more.
Josh, where is this calendar? Is it online anywhere?
It is not online yet. I made it out in Excel, but
I'm going to bring the screen down again. Josh, this is great.
Yes, great.
Yeah. Is it something that we could submit to with approval of the chair? I mean, like where we add a date and it's tentative, you look at it for whether or not to add it, or?
I honestly don't necessarily want to be the bottleneck of it. I would rather just, if you have things you want to add to it, send it to Anne, and Anne can add it there.
Could we add, I mean, they just had the Lunar Calendar Festival last week down at the Art Center. Down there in Maine. I mean, would we add something like that to it, or is that?
Yeah.
That's fine. And so all the exhibitions that are free to the public or any kind of event.
Yeah. And right now, this is mainly, my main thought was for planning purposes, not necessarily marketing out to the community. At some point, maybe we go that route if we're talking new website and stuff. So this though, initially the idea behind it was just for planning.
Yeah. Are there, I can't see because I can't scroll it, but are there the city commission meetings and the budget meetings on here? Because that would be helpful.
I did not have the budget committee meetings. The city commission I didn't put on there. I did put on the one in May because that's the one we talked about going and presenting about what we've been doing as a commission to them.
Yeah.
But eventually it gets pretty full. So I was trying to not overfill it, but yeah.
And we put meetings, like our meetings, also other commission meetings. Can we embed in there, if there are links to Zoom or links to be able to call in remotely, can we ensure that it are embedded in there so that we have it available? That would be super helpful.
Yeah, I think we could probably put in there just the Excel note, or if we move it to another format, however we want to do it there. But yeah.
We could, because we can't use with the city Google Calendar, if we had like a Ask Commission Google Calendar, it would be easy to do, right?
I think we want to be a little cautious with having something that is always accessible by all of us, because there might be some concerns with meeting laws.
Yeah.
If we're all in there talking and
that's true.
messing with it at once, having it kind of go through Anne might be.
Yeah, but
I think the website, which is the next discussion, is going to
the
help
website
answer
will
some
help
of
us
that.
with that,
Yeah.
yes.
So unless there's specific questions on the calendar, maybe we move on to that
website.
topic.
I've got one. Is this accessible somewhere now?
No, Anne has it. It's a file. It's an
Not
Excel
yet. This
file.
was an idea that Josh put together for ways to help us organize ourselves. It's going to live on OneDrive, which of course, I know, Amy, you're a Mac user.
Who does OneDrive?
So, and then Choir, you've also had some frustrations with accessing OneDrive. So that's what we have for now. Actually, I think internally our city operations are moving to Teams. So I don't know if that's going to be more
That might not be any
forgiving.
better for
I don't
Mac
know.
users.
It might not be better. So, but we'll continue to have conversations about that. The idea, though, is that it'd be an instrument that we can use. And it's not a public-facing thing. I don't want to recreate, the calendar that like the Clackamas County Arts Commission has.
Could we put together, I mean, it would be great if the Arts Commission could put together some kind of a calendar that was public facing magazine that highlighted all of the arts things that are happening in
Yeah.
town. Like, for instance,
As a
Clackamas
service.
Community College is going to be having a whole, like, a series of 4 free theater performances that, people can attend. If we could put, anything that's going on that's related to the arts into one calendar and put Oregon City Arts Commission on it, Oregon City Arts Commission events calendar that is public facing, that would be so exciting. That would be a great tool for the community.
I love it. I
yeah.
see people smiling all of them.
I agree with that. I think that should be a separate calendar. I think this calendar is for our organization and function and planning, but that would be super cool to have like on our social media or however people come find us on the internet, which I think is part of.
On this one, just real quick, I think we should also add on here publication dates, so that if we just got, did you guys see the Trail News? We got our article in the Trail News.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Jared, for making room for us. But I think it's really important that we have whatever publications that we want in there.
So I do think it's great. I agree. Let's have an internal, this is what I'm hearing, we're going to have an internal document that helps us just keep track of things. I am going to post, I'm going to invite everyone to a calendar notice that does have the links to the Zoom. It'll be the same Zoom link for the whole year, so that if you're sick or you miss a meeting, you can just Zoom in. We can also have calendar and event information on our new Oregon City website. And with that, I would like to segue into a conversation about this proposed website. More good news for the Arts Commission, and I'm going to invite Mr. Graham to come back up and talk to us about a new Arts Commission website.
Evening of good news. So I did hear your concern about not being able to promote the arts in a way that you felt that would be more timely and more creative. And so I heard you, and we negotiated behind the scenes with a lot of colleagues about allowing you to have your own website. And it comes with a protocol. In other words, what this means is that you'll have your own self-managed website. But but our department or the IT department will buy the domain name. And we will own the city will own the domain name, but you will be able to do what you like to do with the self-managed website. But it also has to meet logo protocol. It has to have the city's logo on it. It has to have the right fonts, those kind of things, and it will be all spelled out because I wanted to include this memorandum of understanding about the website tonight, but we couldn't include it on this agenda. It has to be agendized. So we'll have it available for you to review at the next meeting. But all of my colleagues who are relevant with regard to this subject matter will be signing the document, and then you'll have an opportunity to review it and then sign it. But it spells out a lot of things. So there are all kinds of protocol in it, but you get an opportunity to use that great logo, Art for Every Heart. It was just brilliant, so you should use it. You'll have an opportunity to put your calendar on it. It should be public facing. And then you'll have your own, you can also design your own intranet calendar just for yourselves.
Yep.
So,
The thing that had been up
Yeah.
could actually be accessed by all of us?
yeah, by all of you, so that you can plan it. But of course, one person has to, manage it. I mean, everybody can't play in it, but it's an intranet. And then also, you can also put little, in terms of the intranet, because the public doesn't see it. So you can or you have to be careful. You can't communicate with each other because you are a commission, but you can use that website for your internal calendar. The other thing is Facebook. And I made arrangements for Ann to get the credentials for the city's Facebook, so that you could have things on the city's Facebook account much more readily and much more timely. But it has to go through her, and then she'll put what you need to be put on that Facebook account. So going back to the website, the city will have the official Arts Commission website. All traffic will be directed toward that. But when they click on the link, it will go to your self-managed website. So they'll see everything you have done and are doing with promoting the arts. So next time we meet, on the agenda will be the protocols, so that you can see. I wanted to mention, I was listening to the conversation about some of the ideas you had in terms of spending the money. Yes, some type of, public events, but activities like bands and singing and that type of social you can spend the money pretty quickly that way. You're absolutely right by that. But the other thing that you should also consider is, once again, partnering with people who are looking for partners, like DOCA. And for downtown, we're going into a period now where it's going to be pretty quiet downtown because of the weather and whatever. And something has to happen downtown. We're also looking at the situation where the county courthouse downtown will be moving. And in that move, there should be something going on downtown to keep people coming, because there's going to be a lot of people leaving as a consequence of the courthouse moving. So you probably should take a look at that opportunity to partner with DOCA and other organizations to provide something downtown during this time. Also, I don't know, there's a gentleman who's interested in doing a car show. And so there might be an opportunity to partner with this gentleman about a car show, because he wanted to do it in May. And so there might be an opportunity to entertain his proposal, and Ann can give you his name if you're interested. It's not, I'm just basically throwing that out there as an idea, because art comes in all kinds of forms, in all kinds of ways. So something could maybe worked out in that regard. And once again, Facebook, don't forget that now you will have access to the city's Facebook. You will not have your own Facebook account. It will be the city's Facebook account. And so she'll have the protocols to get through that.
James, do you think we will be able to have the same Facebook deal in relation to the Instagram city
Yes.
account? Because artists and our communities are mostly on Instagram, they're not really on Facebook.
Yes.
Yeah?
They're linked.
Yeah, okay. So we can post on
So
either.
basically, I'll be posting things to both Instagram and Facebook.
Awesome. And then I have a very, very practical question about the website. So you were mentioning that the city would buy the domain, and then I assume, but I want to be sure, that the hosting of that specific domain would be on the city, would be hosted by the city, larger kind of hosting, or do we need also to provide the hosting?
We'll be providing the hosting as well.
Yeah.
We need to find our own, and we can choose, or maybe we find in the MOU.
You can choose. I think you said Foursquare or something like that.
We were thinking about, so Rebecca has volunteered to take the lead in designing our site.
Okay.
And we had talked about using,
All of
Squarespace.
those questions I
Yeah.
wrote out.
Okay.
And
Right.
we'll
Did a lot of
go
work.
over them.
Right, so we'll talk in more detail about it at the retreat, but I did want to, thank Rebecca for offering to help build the site. And she asked me even yesterday or the day before if we could use Squarespace instead of WordPress, and the answer is yes, we can.
Okay.
So it will likely be built on Squarespace. And the web address is going to be ocartscommission.com.
And there's
Have we already bought that domain name?
No, that has not been purchased yet, but our IT manager is planning to purchase it.
So really quick, because the reason why I suggested Squarespace is because when all of us are gone in a year or two and there's new folks here,
Oh, yeah.
and let's say nobody knows how to update a website, that's an easy website to
Yeah, it's very
update.
user-friendly, yeah.
And so what I did was I created a pros and cons sheet of Squarespace and GoDaddy WordPress hosted. And one of the things with Squarespace is if you start a website there, your first year, your domain name is free.
Oh,
So it's
that's nice.
included in there. So I asked Anne to please ask them to wait before they buy the domain
Yeah.
name so that we could all decide, do we want to go that direction or do we want to go this direction? And then the other piece that I just want to say is yes, I will help with all of this because this is a former life of mine. But if there's somebody else that knows how to do this stuff and wants to do it, I am happy to be backup. So please feel free to step forward.
May I ask a clarification? Sorry.
Go ahead.
I did have a conversation with our IT director, Mike Dobja, and he did say it was okay to use Squarespace. But he wanted to purchase the name. So the domain will be under the ownership of the city.
Yeah, the
I
name will be,
understand that.
the name will be ocartscommission.com.
Right, but
And you want to say, do we have to change that?
no. I was going to say something else. I would say, everyone, please do not check the availability of that name.
Yeah,
because
don't.
the second you check the availability of that name,
Price goes up.
bots buy it, and then you have to buy
That's a
it.
good point.
Very
That's a
expensive.
good,
So
yeah.
do
no,
not
that's
do
a good
that.
point.
Yeah.
But see, if the city owns the domain, which is totally fine, the city also is going to own the website,
Right,
right?
yeah.
And so whoever's hosting it, it has to be bought by the city.
Yeah,
And so they need to do both.
yeah, exactly.
Right, but the funds to do so will come out of our Arts Commission budget.
Right, and so
Right.
what I'm saying is he shouldn't go buy that domain name if we decide that we're going to do Squarespace, because the first year that domain name is
Right.
free.
That's right.
And then we don't have to pay for it. They don't have to
Okay.
pay for it.
And we have
You
that
can-
over the-
you can-
we have
Hold on.
somebody who-
Yes, hi.
Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead.
Please introduce yourself.
Yes.
We know you, Sophia, but please introduce yourself.
So hi, Ariella Sophie Sternberg with Clackamas Arts Alliance. We just did a website seminar, workshop on specifically all of these issues. A couple of things that might have come up that might be relevant. One, oftentimes there's a little gimmicky thing that a service like Squarespace will do, which is that it's free for the first year, but then it's, $50 a year after that or something. And
It's 20.
Okay, yeah, domain names are actually pretty cheap, but also sometimes, I don't know if if Squarespace would be the registered owner of that website and they are renting it to you as opposed to the city being the registered owner. I do not know the contract as far as that goes. Sometimes they do stuff like that too. That's all I wanted to say.
Just need to check.
But the city will do what the city will do.
Rebecca, if you need any help with the
Thank you for
website,
that.
I built several websites, so I'd be happy to help you a little bit. I'm not gonna take it away from your hands. I'm just very happy to assist you with that.
And as far as building, I'm happy to make recommendations and lay it out the way, but I don't want to be the only person that's collecting images and copy and all
Yeah,
of that.
yeah.
That will make my head explode.
I see here, if I may, that I saw in our budget, a projected budget, there is $1,200 for marketing, miscellaneous eligible expenses, for instance, marketing is projected $1,200. So, perhaps there is also a possibility for us to consider some parts of the initial infrastructuring, right? Like we can think about the actual structure that we want to have, but then maybe employ someone that executes it so that, even though we all have full-time jobs and there is some marketing budget available for some of the legwork that is needed to build up a website. There's a lot of boring stuff that you just have to do. And it takes a lot of time, actually. So I would advocate for using our acumen and knowledge to build up the structure from a conceptual standpoint, right? But then
Hire someone
to actually execute the vision. I think we've got lots of other things to do than spending hours and hours.
So, James, question for you is, if we did this route, would an option for us be to use that new tourism group that was formed once they get staff up and running and contract with them to help maintain the site? Is that something we could look into doing?
Well, that'd be up to them. Yes, you could look up into them, but I believe they'll have their hands full at the beginning. And keep in mind that although the city will initially purchase the domain name, the Arts Commission to reimburse IT for that. And any add-ons you put on will be at your cost.
Yep.
Okay.
So that's how that would work. This is, I'm looking at the protocol now, but I can't give it to you because it's not agendized. But once you sign it, then the IT will sign it, and then the Department of Communications Division will sign it, and I will sign it. And then he will purchase the domain name after it's signed. If he doesn't need to purchase it, I mean, you have to be careful about the little deals you make, because if you go too cheap, it might blow up in your face. But you have to sort of, once you decide what you want to do, let us know.
Hey, James, since we are all meeting next week, I don't want to put pressure on accelerating the document, but if there is any chance that that document could come agendized within our meeting next week, that would be kind of nice if we could get started.
Well, if I think she's already agendized.
Put it up on the, yeah.
So we can do it next week. Yes.
Well, no, I've already.
She's already put the agenda up, so
Yeah.
it wouldn't be agendized on the next one.
Oh, okay.
Unless you revise the.
We could potentially revise
You
it.
can revise the agenda and then publish it again.
Yeah, that'd be
But she could do that.
nice if we could. Because otherwise we have to wait another
We just have to be
month, right?
careful. I don't want to, yes, that's easy. Why don't I do this? I will take down the agenda. Can we switch to retreat preparation?
Yeah.
I think? Okay, great. So actually what I wanted to do, I will pass out the agenda. I did post it earlier today to try to get things posted publicly, public meeting agenda, at least a week out to the public. So we're meeting a week from tonight. I want to pass out, here's the agenda. But tomorrow, Friday, I can take that down. I can add the MOU to it if you would like me to do that. And then I'll make sure, I can even make sure you have it tonight before you leave.
And then we have to be republished.
Right, and then republish it again tomorrow. That's fine. So here's how what we've laid it out. I love this. This group is a hardworking, get a lot done group. So we will take some time from our strategic planning and identification of priorities, and we can talk about the website, and we can also talk about this the MOU that James described. The other thing I wanted to do is, a week from tonight, we're going to start at 6 o'clock. While 6 o'clock gather, we'll break bread, and then 6:15 we'll get the agenda going. 6:15 to 8:15 next Thursday at the Willamette Falls Studios. People know where that is on Jackson Street. Awesome. I'm going to pass around a little sheet. People want to sign up to bring some food with us. It's okay to bring wine if you want to, that's fine. So beverages, appetizers, take a peek if you are able to. That expression.
A couple of questions.
Teaching convention.
on the agenda, so that you have the Arts Commission work group, is that like identifying work groups, or is that something?
That's what I wanted to
Okay.
say, like, following our different priorities, last year we had 2 work groups, which was great.
Yeah.
So what work groups do we want to have for 2025?
Just write my name on here, just Emma.
Yeah.
And you can ignore my suggestions. I was like, oh, how many? We're all bringing dessert. No, that won't work. But
Nothing wrong with that, but.
If I have time.
My name's already on here. Oh, I see. Okay, last name.
If I have time, I have to do it
Got it.
24 hours in advance. So
That's a lot to ask of yourself.
if I manage,
I
I'll
mean,
try.
if you have to.
That's world famous. What are we?
My work thing was tiramisu.
Any allergies we need to be aware of?
Just milk. Just milk?
Yeah. Well, you can't have the tiramisu, I'm sure.
Well, you know what I have to do.
Oh, there you go.
we should have some non-dairy options. Is that what I'm hearing? Okay.
I will avoid gluten when I can, but it doesn't mean don't bring really good, yummy gluten things. I just
I'll
avoid
bring
it.
gluten-free
You and me
stuff.
both?
Yeah.
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 Any other questions on the agenda for next week?
Yeah, so I've proposed a 2-hour time. I don't know, in the past we went till 9 o'clock, so we wanted to go a little bit later.
Last
I know
year
some
was-
people, 2 hours goes by fast, so we wanted to try to expand it, especially now that we've added some additional topics. I've proposed a 6:15 to 8:15 agenda, but if we want to add some time to talk about this MOU, are people okay if we went till 9?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Awesome. All right, let's plan on extending the time, and when I republish the agenda tomorrow, I'll say 6:15 to 9. Thank you for that, guys.
Is the meeting gonna be televised again? Is that,
Yes, it's a public meeting, so it will be,
okay.
Don't come in pajama.
it will be recorded and it will be streamed, yes.
I guess to add to this, I just want to encourage everyone to come with your ideas, like however, maybe crazy they can be, come with ideas and let's just make it an open, everything on the wall, see what sticks. So yeah.
Is there any chance that we could have a meeting like where we all kind of sit and face each other? Like, in all the years we've had meetings, it's always been like this.
Like this kind of
I'm
setup?
like, I can't really see everybody.
Yeah, it's weird.
And it's like,
kind of have
I mean,
to-
for a planning meeting, I'd like to be able to see the commissioners and kind of like see their faces and stuff. It helps me.
Okay, I think we can do
helps
that.
me.
I will talk to the folks there about setting up, how we're going to set up the room, and I'll set it up. I know what they're going
Board
to say.
meeting
Well, that's
style versus a U shape.
right. So, some of your backs will be to the camera. That's okay. What I'm hearing you say. That's okay. All right, so I will set it
Nobody
up.
watches these.
You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised.
Someone watches everything.
We did. We've had as many as 15 people watching this at one time. I will set up the room to the extent that I can. That makes good sense.
Okay.
Great, and I do appreciate everyone being willing to stay a little longer. I just know that that will help us to achieve our goals better. So,
Yeah.
thank you.
Any other questions on the agenda or the meeting next week?
Will we have other copies of this? Because I,
Were there not enough copies? Well, dang it, baby.
Well, the good thing is we're going to be doing a new one, so.
Okay, that's right.
if it's there, I won't worry about it. That'd be great.
May I email it to you? So I
Just don't use OneDrive, man.
We'll work on it. We'll work on it. We've
No,
already
it's gonna get changed.
we've already moved some major mountains, I think, in the last year. So that's terrific. All right, we got about 7 minutes left. I did want to give people an update on the public art renovation. We've gotten 2 applications. Two people have filled out the qualified vendor application, which is terrific. They are both experienced muralists. And so I will share that information again on OneDrive for now, but I'll also get information with you so that you'll see who has applied. So we have gotten some qualified artists who want to participate that's great. And I'm actively talking to some of the public property, the private property owners that have the buildings where the murals are that were identified in our public artwork assessment report. One of the property owners is very interested in the public renovation grant. He's out of town until the 24th, so I won't be able to talk to him until Monday, whenever the 24th, Monday.
I guess in light of what we heard tonight on the finances, it might be worth going back to the the artists who submit applications and the individuals you talked to, the private property owners, and just emphasizing that this is going to have to be done by June, because I would imagine for murals and renovation, it's going to be a very tight window to do it in June. If hopefully it's a nice sunny spring, but it's Oregon.
We've also talked about finding someone to do something with the salmon bench. If we did.
I do have more information on that. I was going to bring that up actually next
project
week.
itself could eat up, so.
Yeah.
So we should, please, I could follow up with you, Josh, about the salmon bench.
Would the salmon bench be a public arts renovation?
It would be,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, maybe we could spend $10,000 on that bench. We could really.
We could. We don't, there's different ways we can do it. Okay.
Yeah.
So, believe me, I'm very aware of the fact that the clock is ticking on that. And if there's anybody else on the Arts Commission who's interested in helping us identify public art projects that we can, the renovation projects, let me know.
I'm willing to work with you on that.
Wonderful. Thank you, Emma.
Okay, so I think last step is communications. Anything anyone wants to share?
Did want to share. Well, go ahead if you would like. There's an event happening tomorrow night at Priscilla Cellars. Oh, you can use the other one. Okay.
Perfect. Yeah, feel free to take a flyer. We're hosting a gathering event tomorrow at Priscilla Cellars.
Thank you.
Oh. Now the light's on.
Hey, there we go.
It's funny because I expect to hear it, right? And
Right,
loud.
right.
And you can't, there's no feedback in a good way.
We need monitors right here.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, there's a light, so that's helpful. Yeah, tomorrow evening, feel free to come, feel free to tell other people. Downtown, thanks to Daria for the recommendation of partnering with Priscilla. But there'll be wine, there'll be some food. There'll be lots of people, I think. Hopefully not too many because it's a little bit small, but all of you are welcome to come. The goal is to just help artists of all stripes meet other artists and creative people meet other creative people. Because we all need a break from our own headspace, our own studio space to get enriched and get inspired. So come on down.
Is this a one-time event?
So we do these every other month and we rotate them because we serve the whole county. So we rotate them to different cities basically. So it's in Oregon City this month. And then in April, it will be in Canby, location TBD a little bit, but yeah. So there will be more. There will be one in Milwaukee in June, which is not that far. I know because I live in Milwaukee.
Nice.
So yeah, if you can't make tomorrow, which short notice, come to another one. Yeah.
And if you don't subscribe to Clackamas County Art Alliance calendar, there's good things good events being announced regularly.
Yeah, and I think I probably gave you all my card, but I'm happy to give you that again. Actually, I don't think I have it with me, so. Thank you.
I have two announcements. One includes some thank yous. One is on the 8th of March, there is the opening of an international abstract art show at the Imperfecta, and actually Commissioner Rebecca Sira is one of the artists that will be there, and there will be also other Oregon City artists in that show. And the other thing that I wanted to announce is that on the I believe it's the 23rd of March, I have to check, the Sunday, I think it's the 23rd of March, there is a art auction fundraising event to support a gallery that no longer exists in LA that was burned down by fire, a sister gallery that I'm trying to support. And I wanted to thank both Amy and Rebecca because they are amongst the many artists from different countries that donated artworks for the auction. And if you know or if you have art that you wish to donate for the auction, all you have to do is to reach out. But I'm hoping to be able to help this small, tiny gallery that burned down completely and lost all the artworks. And then, so 50% of what if I manage to get something, will go to that, and the other 50% will go to try to fund this collective that I launched a month ago, and hopefully, if I manage to get enough funding, start some of the events for particularly targeted professional artists, so retreats and workshops and also some public activity for the public. So hopefully there will be some turnout, and if you have any art to donate or you know of artists that can donate art for the auction, I'll be very much grateful, and again, thank you to those that already did.
All right.
Any other comments?
Save the date for Oregon City Porch Fest, August 8th and 9th, 2025. We have secured the same location at Willamette Falls Studios for the main stage again. And it's going to be bigger and better and even more of an organizational nightmare this year. Also, next Arts Commission night, meeting night on March 20th, we'll be having a fundraiser at Archbridge Tap Room. So come on down before Arts Commission and have a beer, some live music, and don't have a beer before Arts Commission. You wouldn't want to do that, or maybe it would make us I don't know. But we're also looking for porches and bands to sign up, like right now. So if you want to be a porch.
And don't go out of town that
Sign
weekend
up.
like I
Yeah.
did last year. And because in addition to Porch Fest, I think that's the same weekend that Three Rivers Artists Guild is doing the Oregon.
Again this year.
So it's going to be a whole Oregon City awesome.
Well,
And
as well as the
I think they-
Multnomah Neighborhood Association,
The garage sale.
garage sale.
Right,
But
right. Yep.
we are partnering with Three Rivers Artists Guild this year, and their stage at their art festival will be a Porch Fest venue.
That's cool.
So,
That's cool.
yes.
So lots of cool things going on
The
there.
Oregon City Staycation Weekend.
We'll get it added to the calendar.
Yes.
That's fine.
Real quickly, just one last comment before we close. I know we're a little over time. I just also wanted to say my thank you to Anne. I know you did a lot of work with the event in December and following up on all of these things, the budget and the websites and all of that. And it does not go unnoticed. So thank you very much, Anne.
That's all you guys.
And with that, is there a motion to adjourn? Require a motion? Second?
I want to clarify, I don't think we need to make a.
No, I don't know if it's necessary, but